It's okay. Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Kratitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Vridavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusantatami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pulla Ravindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetam Rudatuhe Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyaha Mokshayishyami Ma Shuchaha. So we are coming to almost the 20th and the 20th verses today is what we're going to be looking at. And so far, we have looked at how in chapter 9, we see the essence of Paramatma being described. And in these verses, that what I'm showing here, all the way from 11 to 19, we see that, in the beginning, he says that a lot of people don't even recognize me at all, even though I'm right there in front of them, but they don't recognize me. So that is what we saw in the 11th, 12th, and actually from the 12th verse, we see that, he talks about how the reason why we don't recognize him is because we are so deeply involved in our own samsar, we have, of course, our own families, we work, we do a lot of things, and uh, which is actually one of the reasons, because we are so focused at the level of our body and mind and being involved, that we think that is who we are. And because of that, we don't recognize that we actually are part of this bigger cosmos. And not just that we are part of the bigger cosmos, but we are that cosmos, So Krishna is slowly trying to get us to understanding that in order for us to really give up this samsara nivritti, which is we need to really understand who we are. So he really gives us this means of attaining this freedom for us from the samsara. And the whole Bhagavad Gita, if you look at it, is really sometimes, if you can, Bhagavad Gita, of course, we can look as the means of liberation, So it is really the upaya, it is the means or instrument, whatever we might say. It is that which is given to us. So having explained that reality now, in 14 through 19, we see how, he slowly brings us into a level of developing a bhakti, actually. And this kind of a technique, we saw even in some previous chapters, but here he really brings about the essence of who that Bhagwan is. So that is where we saw this 14, this one, and all this. The reason for again developing the bhakti is because this is really the biggest kind of a very, very important means for us for liberation. But then, when we think about bhakti, we really need to make sure that, we understand the word carefully. We sometimes think that somebody is a great bhakta because a person is going to the temple all the time and, praying to God, right? So that's how we look at bhakti. But then here he starts to, in Bhagavad Gita, from the beginning of, from the chapters, he starts to really show that bhakti doesn't really refer to just going to the temple or a particular sadhana, which is, just doing pujas and everything, but it actually encompasses all the way from karma, where, you surrender to the Lord by doing your duty. But then from there on, even to upasana, where you're glorifying that Lord, you're glorifying that Lord in all the forms that you see in front of you. That is another stage of bhakti. So when we talk about karma, karma is actually a way for us to purify our mind so that we can actually see the Lord, right? So when the reason we are not able to see the Lord is because my mind is impure, not from a point of view of like it's dirty and all that. It's not necessarily that. It is just that our focus being different, we're not able to see it. So karma yoga allows us to purify our mind, and then we graduate from there to this upasana. Upasana is really glorifying that Lord in front and understanding that, He is there everywhere. He's also there in the idol in front of me. So this leads to now not just this purified mind to really integrate. There is an integration that happens. There is a simplification of our mind itself, So then that is needed because only when my mind is integrated within myself, with the mind, intellect, and everything, now it is able to focus more on whatever Shravanam I'm doing, and that Shravanam leading to the knowledge. So that is the ultimate, the Jnana Lakshana, we might say. So that's why we go through Karma Yoga, we go through Upasana Yoga, and then we come to finally the Jnana Yoga, which is really this form of Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. So I wanted to bring that relation of that bhakti to how it ties with the shlokas of 14 through 19, where, he talks about the prema bhakta, the jnana bhakta, and then how he's the support, everything. So we went through all this up to 19 last time. And interestingly, in Viveka Chudamani, I thought I'll put this up because in Viveka Chudamani, there's so many beautiful concepts. And here he describes, bhakti. This is Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya. He says, swarupa anusandhanam bhakti reva abhidhiyate. So here he says, for among all the things conducive to liberation, moksha karana samagrim, which is the things conducive, bhakti eva gariyasi. There is nothing like bhakti, so devotion bhakti is the highest. And what is it? The seeking after one's real nature is designated as devotion. So that is how he describes the bhakti element itself. So to understand Swaswarupa Anusandhanam, ultimately this is, again, of course, he's coming from the highest level of Vedanta, that recognition that I am ultimately that. The seeking of one's own real nature is designated as devotion. Swaswarupa Anusandhanam Bhakti Reva Gariyasi. Bhakti Reva Abhidiyate. That is the highest form. So, um, so this is so it. So bhakti is not necessarily just in the form of puja, not in the form of parayanam, not even in the form of social service, etc. The final bhakti is actually in the form of inquiry with the help of all the texts that we are studying, whether it is Vivekachudamani or whether it is Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, where I continuously make an inquiry into what is that nature of that absolute Lord. And only when one goes through actually the steps of karma plus upasana and then jnana, then that leads to bhakti. And it's not just any one of them. So many times, we hear that all paths lead to that Lord, right? Karma also leads to it, jnana also leads to it, and bhakti or upasana. It's actually, in many ways, it is a step-by-step process. Of course, when I do karma yoga completely with that surrender, completely with the understanding that, this is going to lead me there, yes, of course, we can take that in that way. But many times, karma yoga for us really helps us to purify our mind. So this is one thing that we need to remember for bhakti itself. So bhakti without knowledge cannot really lead us to that moksha. And that is why, he says jnanat eva kaivalyam, which is very important. So all this leads to that. So I just wanted to offer this short introduction to that culmination of this 11 to 19 shlokas, even as you read them, So any thoughts or any more questions on Anand, do you have anything to offer or say?
Harvam, I think the Bhakti Yoga is what is emphasized here, right? And then Bhakti Yoga ultimately, it leads to Jnana Yoga. At some point, the devotee start getting more knowledge about Lord. So that's my thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so so bhakti itself is jnanam. You can even look at it that way, because like the way he says here, swaswarup anusandhanam bhakti eva bhidiyate. The seeking after one's real nature is designated as devotion. So Shankaracharya here in this shloka is bringing bhakti and jnana as one. Like for example, what is that? In Bhajagovindam, I don't know if you've heard M.S. Subbulakshmi's rendering of Bhajagovindam. Prior to that, actually, Rajaji actually gives a very short lecture of 1 minute or something. If you can listen to that, he beautifully says about how Bhakti and Jnanam are nothing but two wings of a bird. So you need both of them to fly to moksha, So that's why bhakti without that jnanam does not lead to liberation. Bhakti has to be with the jnanam. That's what. And so the shlokas in chapter 9, all these shlokas actually has that at the back of the mind on how when he describes that bhaktas in shlokas 11 to 19. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Meenu.
Yeah, as you said, true Bhakta is kind of jnani because Kabir's doha reminds me, जब मैं था वो नहीं था, जब मैं नहीं हुई. So they don't have ego at all. They think God has every person. It's just the difference.
Right.
Instead of seeing themselves, they see God in each and every one.
Right. Your voice is breaking up a little bit, Meenu. I don't know if it is only I'm listening that way or.
Oh, my connection is not good today. So,
Yeah,
okay.
she's breaking up. Yeah.
Right, right. But I think in and through your breaking up, also, we were able to listen. Basically, you were trying to say that that person who sees God everywhere, something to that effect, you
Yeah,
said.
yeah, like Kabir's Doha.
Kabir's Doha, huh?
वो नहीं था, वो है तो मैं नहीं हूँ. Like it's no ego. God is everywhere. Like the path of love is real narrow. Only one person can walk on it.
Right, right.
So
Beautiful. Yeah. So that's we did all this last time, where then we looked at in 11. Yeah, 11th one was not necessarily connected to this, but it was. And then 12th is also people, those people who do not recognize him. And again, Krishna was explaining all this mainly because we are so much living at the level of our body, mind, and intellect that we don't necessarily see it. And therefore, from 13th one, he starts to explain about those people who have, again, this is that upasana part of it, who basically worship me with a mind devoted to nothing else, knowing me as the imperishable source of all. Such a person who has understood the divine nature of God. And then in 14 onwards is where he starts to describe about the prema bhakta and everyone. So somebody who, glorifies me, who always sings greatness. And again, the person who comes to my mind is Saint Tyagaraja. When he talks about Lord Rama, right? Everywhere he sees Lord Rama, and so his all his kirtanams are all on Lord Rama, so he glorifies and Satatam Kirtayantu Mam Yutanta Dhradaprataha Namasyanta Cha Mam Bhaktya Nitya Yukta Upasati. He's ever steadfast. And we saw all this last time. And then 15th one is about somebody who, through knowledge, worship me in sacrifice, and others offering me the wisdom through jnanam or ekatvena prataktvena. Either, so again he explains this, somebody who sees that Lord as sole support, or even in the form of duality, or who sees everywhere vishvato mukham, such a person also. So this is, we saw that 16, 17, 18 and 19 talks about this. And then in Shloka 16, he starts to, again, give us many different ways in which we can see that Ishvara. And here he says, Aham Krituhu, I'm that sacrifice, I'm the offering, I'm the medicine. So slowly he is giving us opportunities to see that Ishvara in and through everything. And we compared, of course, the shloka to the Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi shloka. Again, as much as we chant Brahmarpanam, this is also very beautiful to keep in mind with this shloka number 16 in the 9th chapter. And then in shloka 17, he brings that Ishvara even more closer to us, because we are human beings who look for relationships. So he describes that Ishvara as the father, the mother, the grandfather. And ultimately, he brings it to a level of, he is none other than that Om, that one who is there as knowledge, at the Om, which is the source for all knowledge. And I'm in the Vedas, Rig, Sama, and Yajur. And then in shloka number 18, he gives some more pointers, which really describes this devotion, or basically the pointers towards bhakti, So this shloka, as I mentioned also the last time and even before that, very, very beautiful, powerful shloka. We just briefly touched upon it last time. So today I want to take a little bit of time to explain each one of these words, because they're just so beautiful. And if we even focus on one of these words, we will see how the mind just quietens down. Our mind today goes in so many different places based upon the activities, the people with whom we are involved with. But how do I just quieten that down to one element? So that is where each one of these words really makes such a beautiful, very, very suggestive words. So he really gives us about 12 pointers in this, starting with, what is Gati? Gati means a goal or destination or outcome. And many times, for us, we look at the goal as, I do something as an action towards getting towards a particular goal. And we think that goal, which is the fruit of my actions, karma phala, is really my destination or goal. So here he tries to show about ultimately that is not the goal, but attaining that feat of Ishvara. That is the ultimate goal. So we need to aspire towards that. So then Bharta, Prabhuhu, Sakshi, then Nivasaha, Sharanam, Sukrit, Prabhava, Pralaya, Sthanam, all in one, I think we can look at it, the origin, the dissolution, then Nidanam, Bijam, Avyayam. So all these 12, we look at it one at a time. So when he says, I'm the goal, Gatihi, we are, if we look at why are we doing what we are doing, anything and everything, and this is different for different people, we are doing because we feel we are incomplete. And in order to complete that, we are seeking something. For example, if it is, a young couple who are married, in the beginning, they're very happy with each other, but then suddenly they feel there is something missing. They want to have children. Only when they have children, they feel that they're complete. Once they have the children, then they feel, oh, I have to have grandchildren. So only when I have grandchildren, my life is complete. So in a sense, if you look at it, I mean, this is on one part of my life. Another part of my life, which is, if I, at work, if I have, I go for work because I have this ambition to do something and to earn a certain amount of money. But it doesn't stop there. I'll put my goal as $1 million in my bank or whatever. No, that is not enough. 2 million. So whatever. In every possible thing, there is a sense of and kind of an incompleteness. So I want to complete it. So this, beautifully, actually, Swami Chinmayananda, again, when I refer to his book so much, if you look at how he has described this, in a sense, this goal that we set up for our thing, right? He compares that to how it is like a delusory serpent on a rope, Everything is very fleeting. It's our own imagination. With our imagination, we build a certain goal and we strive towards it, ultimately to see that that has not given me the satisfaction. So I keep going again, running and running and running, That's how we define this goal as. But if I recognize myself, if I recognize that I need to go to that goal, which is complete in itself. And what is that goal which can be complete in itself is actually not a finite goal. Because every finite things, everything which has a birth and a death, so all the goals that we are looking for, if you look at it, they all start somewhere and they end somewhere. So that is what we call this as a finite goal, And this birth and death it applies to everything, whatever, if I look into my life right now, all of them are finite. And that is where we are going all the time. And that is why, Swami Chinmayananda I was trying to analyze when he says, it is like we're looking for a serpent on a rope, So on a rope in general, there is no serpent there. There's no snake actually. But I have, through my own delusion, I've created that snake and I'm running towards it. So it is it's an illusion. There is nothing there. So that's the kind of goal that today we are looking at it. And that kind of goals are always finite. I need to look at a goal which is not finite. I need to look at a goal which is infinite. And that infinite goal can be none other than that Lord. Only He is infinite. So I need to look at the goal to strive for, which is that infinite, which is really free of any kind of limitations. Anything and everything in the world that I'm looking for today, they have some limitation, which is why I am also running behind something which is better than what I have, right? So I need to look at something which is the absolute best. There is no limitations. It's perfect. There cannot be anything beyond that. And that should be my goal. So that is why he says, I am that goal. So, again, like when I was reading Swami Chinmayananda's thing, that I was reflecting on it so much. And I said, when he says he's that goal, what does that mean? So the reason why he's saying that is that goal is because I need to look at that particular goal, which is absolute, beyond birth and death, beyond any kind of imperfections, beyond any kind of limitation. That should be my goal. So that is why this shloka is very beautiful, because it's got so many elements to it, The next thing is that he says, aham bharta, gatihi. It says, so gatihi bharta prabhu sakshi. So bharta, when we look at bharta, again, it is the supporter of everything. And in that support, like for example, again, this is at a very high level, this particular shloka. Just like, for example, in a desert, and this is again example straight from Gurudev's book, because he has taken each one of those paragraphs are so loaded. He talks about how, in a desert, like not necessarily a desert. The reason I'm saying desert is because in desert, which is so hot, when people are going in this camel and they see something which is shining far away as a pool of water, and this person is so thirsty, they're going towards it and they think that is nothing but water, and this can happen only because there is a support of the desert, which is so hot with the sand and everything and with the heat. All this is creating that illusion, right? So, and that is again what we are running towards. But we need to look at not the water there, but actually the one that is giving that appearance of the water. So that supporter, so that desert sand, that is a support for the illusion. So too for us, instead of looking at what this world is showing that is an illusion, I need to look at what is supporting that illusion. So that is the support I need to go to. So that's why he's the Bharta. Bharta is the supporter. I am the Ahamsa Bharta, he says. The next one, Prabhu, I am that Lord. So even though, that absolute Lord gives that support, that, grace for that imperfection, he says it's, by himself, he doesn't undergo any change, but he is that absolute awareness. And the example again, what Swami Chinmayananda gives is, with all these, like, for example, phone or the refrigerator, everything, the one that is giving the life to these things is that electricity. Without this electricity, this phone is of no use. I mean, without the battery in it, without the charge in it, it is of no use for me at all, right? So it is like that. So it is, the Lord is that absolute charge for all us. It is the sense of life. It is the purpose because of which each one of this equipment is functioning. And so he is that kind of, that Prabhu which gives that energy or light, of energy to everything. The next thing he says, Aham Sakshi. I am that witness. So in and through everything that is going on in this world, by himself, he doesn't undergo any, he's a complete witness. And, there's nothing that he gets involved in. So he is a complete witness from that point of view. So things, whatever is happening by its own self. He's just a complete witness. He is, of course, a supporter for whatever the accident or what incidents, all the actions that is being done. By himself, he doesn't undergo any change at all. So he's that Sakshi, The next thing he says, that Lord is the abode. In Swami Chimananda's 108 names, there is one word, right? What is that? I'm not able to get. There's one beautiful thing where he is that abode, but it's not a permanent abode, I'll have to come. My mind is running a blank here, but so he is that abode for every being. And what can be that absolute abode, which is again, which doesn't undergo any change or anything like that, It is that absolute solid place where I really want, it's my final resting place, if you want to say it that way, It is definitely not the graveyard or anything like that, but it is my absolute nivasaha, my final resting place. And again, Swami Chimananda in the book gives a beautiful example, which is, the ghost and the post. He says it's on the post that we bring up all these illusions of different kinds of ghost and everything, And why do we bring these different illusions of the different kind of ghost on a post, which is just standing by itself? It is because we ourselves, in our own minds, we create those kind of projections. So ultimately, the whole projections is only in our mind. It is not on the post. Okay, the post is by itself. So I need to look for the post and not worry about all these illusions of things that I'm creating in my mind. So that is my abode. That is my nivasa, And then the other word he brings in is sharanam. It is a place that I can completely surrender. I don't have to even a little bit question on whether this place that I'm going to surrender is will forsake me, will not help me. No, that sharanam is will give me the ultimate peace. There is nothing beyond that, and it is, it's the most peaceful, tranquil place. And to that place, I want to go. And that is my Sharanam. I completely surrendered to that Lord who is up where I can get my everything, the most peaceful. And finally, he says, okay, so all these things may seem like very far away, and which is true. We can never even imagine these things that that Lord is a sakshi, that Lord is sharanam, that Lord is the supporter, because again, especially if you look at this word bharta or supporter, if you take this example of the movie on a screen, I go to the movie theater paying a lot of money to see the movie. I want that excitement. And why would I go to a movie theater to see the screen, I have paid the money to go to this one to enjoy. And that is how we have come into this world. We have come into this world to kind of enjoy. And I'm not really looking to go to that support, right? So it's very, very hard for us in our mind to imagine what that support looks like. So he brings us now a little bit down to earth, and he says that Lord himself is that friend. And again, such a beautiful word, Suhrit, because here the word Suhrit as a friend doesn't mean just somebody who, we have thousands of friends, and especially again, I have to bring the social media in here because through social media, or actually even a better example is LinkedIn, LinkedIn, we can make so many connections on top of connections on top of connections. And now after 500 connections, LinkedIn basically says they give up, they say you have 500 plus connections. So the idea being that, our life has become like that, where all the people that we are connected with, we think is our friend. But here he says, no, that Lord is your absolute friend, you know such a beautiful word, actually, because and this he's a friend, and the only way somebody can be an absolute friend is if that friend is absolute. So God is that infinite absolute self who will never forsake you no matter what you do. So this a shloka from chapter, um, I think it is chapter 6. Yeah. Suhrin Mitra Udasinam Madhyastha Dvesha Bandhushu Sadhushva Picha Papeshu Samabuddhir Vishishyate. So, that Suhrit is completely such a beautiful, who is always calm, always, no matter what you do, he or she is always your friend. So that's why he uses the word Sukrit, beautiful word. And then ultimately he says also that I am the Prabha Pralaya Sthanam. I am the origin, I am the dissolution, and I am that sthanam. I am that place of rest, which is, and then finally he says, Nidhanam. I am the repository, or the place for all this. It's like, the Play-Doh that we give to our children. With the Play-Doh, the child can make so many different shapes and forms and everything, right? But all those things are in the Play-Doh. Okay. So too, here he says how ultimately this entire world is just me alone. And in me, you all are there. All the forms, everything is there in me. So I'm the storehouse. I'm the storehouse for all these forms and everything. So, and Bijam Avyayam. Now, we talked about the seed in previous lectures, where we said the seed is the source for the unmanifest. I mean, the seed is the unmanifest, and it just gets manifest as a tree. But here he says Bijam, which means a tree, it is Avyayam. It doesn't really undergo any modification at all. This particular seed is really, even though it is the origin of samsara, by itself, it really doesn't undergo any transformation at all. It remains untransformable. So that is the idea for, again, the description, another description for that Lord. So very beautiful words, each one of them. I just want to bring that shloka up again one more time, just to show how many such beautiful words he says in this shloka. It's if we can only sort of memorize the shloka and keep on remembering each word, what it means, to a large extent, even just remembering the meaning as I'm saying the shloka really calms my mind down, you know. it reminds me of where I'm going. Like I think it is in Alice in Wonderland, right? Where this girl Alice, she's going somewhere in a walkway or something, and she asks this cat, okay, where should I go? Where am I going? And the cat says, it's all left to you. Wherever you want to go, that is where you're going. Something like that. So it's up to us to define really what my goal is, where I want to go. But here the Lord is saying, you know what? Let me just tell you, you think you want to go wherever you want to go, but actually the ultimate goal where you want to go is actually come to me, you know. So if you keep me as my goal, then there is no confusion in your mind as to where you want to go, you know. So that is why this word goal is so beautiful. And then I'm the supporter for everything. Ultimately, you think that, we all think that this is, if I earn this much amount of money, then that will support me. But we know that that is not true. Money is always, fleeting. In fact, yesterday there was a very, very beautiful quote, because, you're doing this 108 days, Swami Chinmayananda's, there's something that is being said. Very beautiful. I hope I can bring that. The quote says, "What is happiness is not the thing. No, if happiness is not giving you what you want, give it back." Something so I really have to put that. It's yeah. So if money is not giving you the happiness, just give it back. So here we look at happiness as the bharta for us. But he says that is not true. Bharta is that Lord. And that, but again, by explaining the witness principle, he says about how we have to be a witness, reminding us how being a witness to everything that is happening. So again, this is very important because we go through so many incidents, so many people say something to us or whatever. If I think of myself as a witness, then I won't get affected by what is happening to me. Then I'm that abode. I'm that, that ultimate support, the shelter, the friend, everything I am. So just a very beautiful meditative verse. Any thoughts, or what do you think? I mean, doesn't that sound very beautiful?
Yes, yeah. In one sloka, Bhagavan is explaining, so many in so many aspects, and
Correct,
then what Lord is trying to say is, He's everything. Just believe in
correct.
Him.
Exactly. Anything that you can imagine, right? Anything that we are looking or we are running towards, He is that. So why do we need to go anywhere else? But again, explaining from such a high level that sometimes it's hard for us to relate to it immediately, you know. Then
Harvam,
in yeah, go ahead, Anand.
yeah, also in bhakti, bhaktas think God in different ways. Like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, someone thinks he's a friend, someone thinks he's like a dasya bhakti, like he's
Correct.
a servant. So there are
Mm-hmm.
many, yeah, there are many aspects. So here, Bhagavan is saying, yeah, he's the ultimate goal, and he is the friend. Like he's giving a whole lot of
Correct.
views. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So after taking us to that height, you know, now he wants to bring down a little bit more so that we can relate to him in the sense that we are used to. So, and the first thing for us is our attachment to a body, right? So when we are attached to a body, the things that affects us most, number one, is the temperature. And it's cold out there, it's hot here. First thing we think about is these things. And so in this shloka, the next one, 19, he says, Aham. So again, look at the beautiful poetry, I would say. He doesn't say, think of me as think of me as a support, think of me as all this. But he says, I am that. I am, when he brings something so personal, then we are also, we feel, okay, maybe even I am that. So here, for example, he says, Tapami aham, aham tapami. I'm the one who's actually providing that heat for you. And then he says, it's again, the beautiful thing about here is he's trying to take us out of the thing of thinking that this is outside us, you know. Uh, in the previous shlokas, of course, before 12, he had already talked about that absolute reality, that infinite aspect, and then saying that, I am that, all this trying to bring us closer. So here he's trying to show by saying that, okay, think that I am that heat, I am the one who is, and this actually, this shloka has so much of scientific relevance too, and we will see how that is the case. So he says, I'm the heat, I'm that rain, I'm the one who holds back the rain too, and only sends it forth when it is needed, which is so true. I mean, imagine if the sun heats up the whole place and the whole water is taken up, and then the whole thing is just dumped on us, which of course sometimes it happens in the form of snow. Suddenly you get 12 inches of snow or something like that. But it rarely happens that after you have the 12 inches of snow, after some time it tapers away, right? So he holds back and he just feeds only when it is needed. So I'm that heat, I'm this one. And then taking us again, after explaining this, he goes into a very high level again. He says, I am that Amritam, I am immortality, but I'm also death. I am that existence, and I'm also the non-existence. So we'll see how he's trying to explain this. So heat, I guess we can all understand that it is easy because, we have our heaters giving us that heat, and but then here he says, I give heat in the form of the sun. The sun is the one which is the source of all heat for us, right? And then he says, as much as the sun is giving the heat, I give rain when you want it. So I withhold and I send forth this rain for what. So this is the one which I said, it's really an appreciation for all the science. Our rishis were great scientists. They were able to recognize this and tell us how this whole world functions. So it is really so poetic, and so beautifully he gives that aspect of for us to see the beauty in nature, that there is heat and there is also the aspect of rains. And then he says, I am immortality and also am death. How do we explain this? It basically is that the one that is constantly giving life here is that Lord, and that is continuously, is happening. But at the same time, there is a death, because the death is something which is, whatever is changing is death. So again, in US, you see that so beautifully with the fall, which happens, and then now is spring, everything is springing to life. So that change aspect is what he says is that death. We look at death differently. We look at death as something which is gone, but that has to happen in order for something to spring back. But in and through all this, that self is the one which is changeless. And so that changeless aspect is the one which is immortal, and anything that is undergoing change is the death. And the last two things that he gives here is Sat and Asat. So I am that existence, but I'm also the non-existence. But when we look at non-existence, it is not that the non-existence never existed. So that non-existence is also there, but I don't see it. So whenever we experience something, we experience it as existence, but when I don't experience, that is in the form of non-existence. So that is how we want to look at this. So both there is the, by what do we mean by that? So anything that I'm experiencing is an effect. Like for example, the flower. Only when it is in the form of a full-blown flower that I actually experience it. But when it is really in the form of a bud or something, I don't even think about it. But that doesn't mean that it did not exist, you know? So that is how we define as something as non-existence here. So he says, I am both that existence and I'm that non-existence also. So another way to think about this is, um, uh, when I go to do an action, for example, this morning when I go to take my tea or something, that tea is something that has manifested into an existence. But before that, I had the thought in my head that I wanted to get the tea. So the thoughts was in the form of an unmanifest form, which then gets manifested in the form of the tea, right? So, or another way to even look at it is when I'm creating something in the lab. Before that, the idea was there in my head, but that idea got translated into a project or into any kind of object. So with all this is what the existence and the non-existence really means. Um, so that is the whole idea. What in the shloka we actually saw. I'm the heat. I'm that, I'm also that rain which I'm withholding. I'm that immortality, mortality, existence. So it is another very meditative shloka for us to think about. Now, coming to the shlokas 20 and 21, having now described really the infinite nature of that Lord, Ishvara, now Krishna starts to go into the topic of the bhaktas. So basically he says there are two kinds of bhaktas. One type of bhakta are who go to the Lord with some wish or the other. And the other type of the other type of bhaktas, they go to the Lord with absolutely no desire at all. They just want to desire that Lord and none other than that Lord. So Sakama bhaktas and Nishkama bhaktas. So in these two shlokas that we're going to see just now, he describes the bhaktas who are going to that Lord with some desire. Okay. So here actually the tune changes. So far we saw the Anushrup Chand. So this is a different type of meter and I'll just chant that for you. So it goes, Traividya mam soma papa puta papa. Traividya mam soma paputa papa. Yajnaishtishtva svargatim prathayante. Now we have seen this thing back in second chapter also. Yajnaishtishtva svargatim prathayante. Te punyamasadya surendra lokaha. Te punyamasadya surendra lokaha. Ashnanti divyam, ashnanti divyan divi deva bhogan, ashnanti divyan divi deva bhogan. So he says, Traividya mam somapa putapapaha, that is, the knowers of the three Vedas, the drinkers of Soma, purified from sin, Yajnesh Ishtva, Swargatim Prathayante. They worship me by sacrifices and they pray for the way to heaven. Okay. Te punyam asadhya surendra lokam. They reach the holy world of Indra. Te punyam, through what they have done, the punya, they go to heaven. Ashnanti divyan divi deva bhogan. And they enjoy in heaven the divine pleasures of the gods. Okay, so I've broken up all the meanings here. Traividya, those who are well versed in the three Vedas, and they come to me. They are the drinkers of nectar, purified of sin through sacrifices. So they do a lot of sacrifices, and they attain that swarga, and and they do this. They do a lot of this punyam, and they obtain this abode of Indra, and they enjoy all the pleasures. So what does that really mean in terms of for us, So I just broke it down, is they do it because they want a lot of punya, or they want a lot of artha, or they want a lot of, they want to enjoy everything on the earth, or they want all this combination. In simple words, they're actually looking for money, name, or fame in this whole world. Okay. So this kind of reminds me, of people who go to Las Vegas, for example, for that quick pleasure, by gambling, getting a lot of money and attaining that fame very quickly, it's just, which of course they have worked very hard. They do a lot of this punya and they try to go there. So that is the shloka basically says. And then in shloka number 21, now assuming that they have accumulated all these merits and they attain that heaven, are they really continuously, are they going to stay there? Or what really happens to them? So that is what is described in shloka 21. And I'm going through this rather quickly with these two words because there's not a whole lot of sort of philosophy behind this that needs to be explained. This is how our world is. We live in this kind of world where, the idea is, what can I get from the Lord, So, te tam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam. Te tam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam. Kshine punye martya lokam vishanti. Kshine punye martya lokam vishanti. Evam trayi dharma manu prapannaha. Evam trayi dharma manu prapannaha. Gata gatam kama kama labhante. Gata gatam kama kama labhante. So in this shloka, he says, so when the idea is only to get something, so the Lord is very compassionate. He says, okay, I will give you because you have worked hard for it. So they, having enjoyed the vast heaven world, te tam bhuktva swarga lokam vishalam kshine punye. Whatever they got was not much. Whatever this, they have exhausted all their punyas, and they enter into the world of mortals when they merit. So they actually do go up to the heavens, they enjoy, but then they come back to the world of the mortals. Martya lokam vishanti. The injunction of the three Vedas, do they religiously abide by? The state going and returning, do they attain? Endless desiring. So the idea is, he's saying that yes, they do all this and they come back, they enjoy, again they work hard, they again go back to that world of the heavens. But all this is in the realm of the finite. Okay. So basically the idea, he's saying is people work hard, they earn a good living, but they spend most of it. So, somebody who gets a first job, a first month's salary, you get the salary, you enjoy it at the very first itself month, and then again you go back, earn, without any savings or whatever. So that is one way to look at it. And But then here the Lord is, looking very compassionately on them, just like, a father. He knows that if he takes the son to the mall or something and the child, is crying for something, he gets him what he wants, but he knows that the child has to grow up and really work hard for something bigger and better things, right? So that's what these shlokas are very simply trying to show that, you know, and again, Krishna wants to bring this to a notice because, just giving the high goals is not enough, but also show where we are and how we can actually grow out of it and aspire for something bigger. Okay. So the next shlokas, he then points out to the nishkama kind of bhaktas who are really aspiring for much higher goals. Any questions or thoughts? I know we are about 3 minutes over time, but okay. So then we meet next week. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyat dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om, everyone. I think I should